It seemed as though Mildred's family had abandoned her as soon as they left her off at the care facility. After 2 years, not one of them visited her, and they seldom spoke to her at all. Welcome to USA Stories channel. Do not forget to subscribe and activate the bell button to receive all new updates. Now let's go to the story. Thomas, her grandson, was the only one who supported her during it all. She thought Thomas was such a wonderful child. He remained even after everyone else turned their backs on her. Every weekend he would pay her a visit and would give her a call whenever he could. Any day that he called, Mildred's day brightened. Sadly, he wasn't the angel she believed him to be. Mildred suffered from a bad case of dementia, and over the last few years, it had gotten a whole lot worse. It was the reason her family had given up on her, or so she thought. When Thomas came to visit Mildred, he often told her that the family saw her as a burden and that they wanted nothing to do with her. It hurt her deeply, especially after she heard the bitterness in their voices when she called. It seemed like Thomas was the only one who still cared. Thomas also told his grandma that the family wasn't happy about his visits. They were so unhappy about it that they stopped inviting him to family get-togethers. It seemed like he was being treated just as badly as her, but that couldn't be further from the truth. It was just another part of his elaborate web of lies. Thomas's words caused Mildred to become resentful of her family. He was there for her, therefore she felt bad that he was being treated like a stranger. It didn't set right with her at all that it seemed like he was giving up so much of his life to make her happy. On one visit, Thomas even told her that the family had decided to put her in the care home because they expected her to pass away soon. That statement really made her sad. She knew that she probably only had a few years left, but hearing that her children spoke about her in such a way was like a punch to the gut. It suggested that Thomas was following the footsteps of the rest of the family, but her grandson wouldn't stand for it. Instead of abandoning her as they did, he increased the number of visits and phone calls. It was especially clear after conditions started worsening. That was when Mildred started noticing certain things. Every now and then, Thomas would mention that he was having money problems. He claimed that he had lost his job and that he was having difficulty paying his mortgage. That made Mildred feel even worse. She thought it was partly her fault and felt that she needed to do something to help her devoted grandson. Mildred took a few days to consider her options. She wasn't rich, but when everything she had was put together, it would come to a decent amount. She decided it would only be fair for her to give her entire inheritance to Thomas. Her sons didn't deserve it anyway. Where were they for all these years? Thomas was there for her all along. Mildred felt that her family had to be punished for leaving her to die. They even tried to go so far as to try and stop her grandson from visiting her. He was the last person she had left. But what Mildred didn't see was that she was being misled by the only person she trusted. Thomas wasn't so innocent after all, and her sons were only doing what they thought was right. Something disturbed Mildred despite her advanced age and the consequences of her illness. Mildred couldn't help but question whether or not Thomas's assertions were accurate. She reasoned that her dementia could have caused her to make mistakes. Perhaps her boys did arrive, but she chose to ignore it. If only she knew, Mildred had originally planned to split her inheritance between her sons. It would be up to them to share it with their families and decide how much went to each of their children. But after what they put her through, they didn't deserve it. She had made up her mind. She'd give everything to her grandson, as he deserved it more than anyone else. However, there was a slight issue with the will that had been standing for so long. It wasn't so easy to alter the information. When Mildred created her will, things worked differently than they do now. There were different rules and stipulations attached to it, and that would create one major issue that Mildred wanted to avoid. What problem was she trying to avoid? Her sons would be informed of her planned changes, but that wasn't even the worst part. They also had the right to object to them since they were the only people in line that would receive anything. But Mildred hoped they would understand instead of going against her. So she got on the phone and discussed everything with her lawyer. Luckily, he was all too happy to deal with everything. Mildred dreaded what her sons would think of her after they found out, but she would deal with it when it came to that. At least then she would be able to speak her mind. The next day, the documentation was completed, and the attorney notified Mike and Dave, Mildred's sons, of the modifications. As Mildred waited for her boys to call, she was nervous. Though she had anticipated hearing from them, she had not anticipated their response. She was delighted to grant their request for a visit, even if she had not anticipated it. Early the next morning, Mildred got a call from Thomas, and he seemed upset. He found out that his father and uncle would pay her a visit, and he was determined to convince her not to see them. What Mildred thought would be the last time she saw her son, since she wasn't going to let the opportunity slip. Within an hour, Thomas was knocking on her door. Thomas was livid, and he tried to talk Mildred out of seeing her sons, but she was adamant about hearing their side of the story, and that didn't sit too well with her grandson. With a huff, Thomas stormed off, leaving his distraught grandmother on the brink of tears. She had no idea why he was acting the way he did, but she would find out soon enough. Mildred had an hour before her sons arrived, and she took that time to calm herself down. An hour later, Mike and Dave knocked on the door, and for some inexplicable reason, they looked happy and relieved that their mother had allowed them to come. It had contradicted everything Thomas had said to her over the last few months, and she was starting to wonder why had her grandson been lying the entire time. When Mildred brought the subject up, her sons shared a look, and she instantly knew she was being misled. Dave informed her that they wanted nothing more than to visit her, but Thomas informed them that her condition was worsening and that she preferred it if they stayed away. Again, after Mildred heard everything her sons had to say, she was devastated. For the past 2 years, she thought her children wanted nothing to do with her. She spent her time wondering what she had done to deserve this, but now she knew it was all her fault. If she didn't believe Thomas, she could have been with her sons. Because of that, their reunion was bittersweet. Mildred was happy that she got to see her beloved children one last time, but she was also furious about Thomas's deception. The truth was that Mildred was out for revenge. Now that she knew what Thomas wanted, she would make sure he wouldn't get it. But how would she do it? If Mike or Dave left, Mill asked them one last favor. She wanted them to act as if Thomas had gotten his way, and she needed them to stay quiet about what was discussed. Her sons were happy to make her final wish a reality, even though they didn't know what she was planning. They were just happy to have resolved the issue before it was too late. Following her boys' departure, Mildred decided to put the finishing touches on her life's adventure. She corresponded with her kids and grandkids by mail. Though the letter to Thomas was going to be a little different, she still wanted to express her gratitude for the roles they had played in her life. Every deception he believed he had constructed would be destroyed by what she had to say to him. A couple of days later, Dave and Mike got a call from the nursing home. Mildred had passed on the night before, and she wanted them to be the first to know. In his expected, Thomas told everyone that Mildred asked him to arrange the funeral, and his father and uncle were all too happy to let him do it. And on the day of the funeral, Thomas was front and center. He wanted all attention to be on him while he anxiously awaited the call from the lawyer. But the call never came. Instead, the lawyer and a few people from a company Thomas had never heard about arrived at the funeral. They set up a monitor, and suddenly Thomas's lies came crashing down around him. Before her face showed on the large screen, Mildred's voice resounded over the crowd. "For the longest time, I thought you guys wanted nothing to do with me, but now I know it was just a lie fabricated by Thomas." Cries went up throughout the throng. He would face their anger since Mildred had gone over and above to expose her grandson in front of the whole family. Please remember to subscribe to our channel, give us a thumbs up, and turn on the notification bell so you won't miss any of our videos. If you enjoyed the tale, the next video that plays on your screen will probably move you too.